So feathers that cover birds are more than just the colors, so they have more purposes as well. For example, when the weather starts getting cold, they use their feathers and have their feathers for insulation and more warmth. So some birds actually grow extra feathers when it is starting to get colder so that they have more warmth and insulation when it starts to snow and fall, so then the weather starts getting colder. So there are 3 types of adaptations. They include structural, physiological, and behavioral. And so let's look at these birds. So all of these birds have different beaks because they have different purposes. So for example, this one right here is for fruit. This one is for insect. And this one is animal catching and scavenging. So all of these different beaks have different purposes. And all of these are examples of adaptations because of the habitat that they live in, the food that they eat, and all the different things that we were talking about before about adaptations. And so here are some other examples for beaks and feet. So all their different feet are different depending on what they need it for. For this one, it needs it for swimming, and because of the web in between their toes, it helps them swim better. So these are some examples of adaptations and how birds have changed and their different characteristics. So the objectives of this lesson is students will identify and describe the advantages of bird adaptations and evaluate the importance of adaptations of the birds. So to start off the lesson, let's look at this chart right here. So it has examples of beaks, feet, legs, wings, and coloration for adaptations for each of the birds. So what do you notice? So let's start with the feet. Like before, this one notices the webbed feet that ducks have, and it aids for walking in mud. So this is an example of an adaptation that a bird would have. So have you ever seen like a duck before? I'm sure you have. I know that I go down to the river here in River Falls and see the ducks swimming in the river there. So I'm sure you've seen ducks flying around. So let's look at the pictures that you brought in. Oh my goodness, look at this one. This one is about to catch a fish for food. Oh, see, and then this one's eating bird feed. Oh my goodness, all of these birds are different, but they eat different things and they look different. That's called an adaptation. Okay, so we are going to group this data into our own charts. So number 1, let's brainstorm a list of bird characteristics. And you can look at those pictures that you brought in from home to put into our chart. So then number 2, name the birds that have these characteristics. What kind of birds do you think these are? Some of them might be a little tricky, but we need to put our thinking caps on, so let's think of maybe what these birds are. And number 3, describe the advantage of the adaptation represented by the characteristics. So like we mentioned before, their beaks, their feet, the coloration, and their wings. So after we do that, let's design our own original bird that is adapted to its habitat. So we need some things that are going to be in our bird. So you're going to decide, 1, where the bird will live, and that can be somewhere warm or somewhere cold. Or does it live in a tree? Where does it live? What will it eat? How it moves? Does it fly? Does it have wings? Or does it have wings but they can't fly? You decide. So how does it move? Its gender. Is it a male or a female? So can it lay eggs or not? How it raises its young. So using these choices, make a list of the adaptations that are necessary for your bird to live in the place that you decide. So using your list of adaptations, create your own original bird by drawing it, or you can use materials from around our classroom to make your own bird. So with your creations, write a short report that includes the name of the bird, food sources, habitat, and lifestyle. Make a list of the adaptations, reasons why, and the advantages of these adaptations that you put into your bird. Okay, friends, it is sharing time. Great job making your own birds. We are excited to create. We are excited to see all of these birds that you have created. So let's share our birds with our friends. So can you, and then after sharing, let's think. Can you imagine your bird in a habitat different than the one that you created? Let's think. What difficulties would it have being in a different habitat, and why? So, after all of this, we have seen so many different birds. Let's go outside and go to our school forest and see birds and see where they live outside, what they eat, and see the colors of their wings, of the feathers. Let's see some birds with our own eyes. Okay, so when we come back in, I want you to think, why are the adaptations of a bird's beak, feet, legs, wings, and color important? So keep that in mind when we are going outside and seeing our birds. Okay, so for modifications for this lesson, these would include when having the students draw their original bird, they can get into groups so that they can bounce ideas off of each other. It might be difficult for one student to think of their own and create their own bird and where it would live and the colors and everything else for adaptations. Having the chart from the beginning of the lesson printed off and given to each of the students so that they can physically see this chart throughout the whole process that we're creating these birds will be helpful. And then having various writing utensils and sizes for the students depending on their fine motor development. So these could include thicker crayons so that they can grasp them better. And instead of drawing, they could verbally describe their bird and the teacher can write a list of ideas on the board. And then extensions, make mobiles of the completed birds. Prepare a digital slide presentation showing different types of bird adaptations. So that would include like, instead of just having the pictures that the students bring in the beginning, that you can show the birds in a slideshow and be like, look at this beak, why is this important, all this kind of stuff. Collect pictures of birds to develop a bulletin board showing some of the adaptations discussed. Look for pictures showing bird parts compatible with the invented birds. So comparing the invented birds from the students and actual birds, and display the invented birds as well. Compare and contrast other animals' habitats and food that they eat. So birds aren't just the only animals that have adapted throughout years, and don't just focus on birds. Discuss animals having to adapt in different seasons to survive. Like mentioned, animals have to do different things in winter and different seasons, especially in Wisconsin because we get really cold here, and then in the summer we get really hot. So what do we as humans need to survive? So not just animals, but us ourselves. We need food, water, shelter, clothing, and how have animals changed over time in evolution. So humans evolve from monkeys. And then go for a walk and physically look at the habitat and what birds eat by seeing them in real life. And these could also include other animals as well. And then collect sticks, twigs, leaves, and etc. from the school forest and create replicas of a bird's habitat. So having those actual physical things from their habitat and then recreating it in the classroom. There we go.